Izzy, welcome to the So You Want to Be a Marine Biologist podcast. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we are going to chat about deep sea ocean exploration and underwater volcanoes and all kinds of cool stuff. But I really want to know, how did you even get started on this path?
I suppose I am quite lucky in that I come from sort of background of being exposed to science. So as a child, I was always exposed to lots of different things. My mum was pretty convinced that I was going to be an astronaut at one point. So I was quite lucky to have very supportive parents. And at some point, I'm not sure who it was, some relative bought me a book on volcanoes, and that was it from that point onwards. So I was sort of an obsessive then through school, doing all of my childhood projects on volcanoes and that kind of thing. So I had a pretty good idea of where I wanted to go, even when I was little. Although that didn't go down very well with my careers advisors, actually. When I told them I wanted to be a volcanologist, they suggested that I should have a backup plan, and that wasn't a very realistic career path. And so then I said that I wanted to be a jockey, and that shut them up. I did a pretty classic route into sort of scientific research, really. So I'm in the UK, so I did sort of GCSEs and A-levels in science subjects. Went to the University of Edinburgh, where I studied geology, and then from there I went on and did a PhD at Durham University, which is also in the UK. And I hadn't really I knew I wanted to do volcanoes, but until I was a student, I hadn't really realised I wanted to do them underwater, because it wasn't really something we had learned about, really. We did a lot of on-land fieldwork, and we went to Cyprus, which is a really lovely on-land sort of exposure of what volcanoes on the seafloor actually look like. But until that point, it hadn't really occurred to me as an option. And then I'd seen this project that was happening that was looking at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and how Earth's crust is constructed by volcanoes under the sea. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. So I applied for that, and I was lucky enough to get onto that project. And then it just sort of became an obsession from there, really. So I've moved around a bit, done a few different things, went and lived in Germany for a bit. And now I'm at the National Oceanography Centre in the UK, where I sort of do a bunch of different research. So quite a lot of submarine volcanology, but also other marine geohazards. So things like sort of seafloor cable hazards and pollution and things as well. But mostly volcanoes, because they're the best bit.
Because that's where your passion truly lies.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so fascinating. It's so funny to see how kid obsessions can actually turn into careers.
Yeah, I think it's quite an important thing to recognise, actually, because we've had a bit of a debate here in the UK recently about why girls aren't doing physics, and a few people have said things that maybe weren't that well advised. And I think actually, if you can just encourage those sort of childhood interests, some really great things can come out of it. If you make people believe that they can do something, then they're really capable of achieving them, I think.
Absolutely.